Have you ever stopped to think, really think, if the things we label as flaws could actually be, well, necessary for love? Or maybe our whole idea of perfect love is just too neat, too clean.
Yeah, maybe a bit unrealistic.
Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're getting into something really fascinating. The complicated, sometimes paradoxical link between love and what we perceive as imperfections.
That's right. And we're going to explore this mainly through Yesoyeon's novel, Love and Flaws, The Irony of Life.
Okay.
But we'll also be weaving in some insights from comparing it to Cha Doha's poem, Companions, from Future's Hand. It adds another layer.
Sounds great. And we've got some solid sources for this, right? We're looking at a literary analysis focused specifically on Yesoyeon's work.
Yep, and another piece that really dives deep into the novel itself, pulling out specific themes, details, even quotes, so lots of texture there.
Perfect.
So our mission today really is to try and unpack what these writers actually mean by love and flaws. It sounds simple, but it's not. We'll ask, can love exist without flaws? Are they separable? Or maybe flaws are just part of the deal, integral to what love even is.
Okay, so yeah, prepare to maybe question some assumptions about loving and being loved.
Definitely.
So first off, it's interesting how love and flaws just pop up together right away in the analysis, especially alongside Cha Doha's poem.
It sets the stage immediately.
It makes you ask that basic question like, okay, hold on. What exactly are we talking about here? What counts as love for these authors, and what's a flaw?
That's the absolute core question the sources grapple with. Can they coexist?
Yeah.
Does getting rid of flaws somehow make love complete? Or is that? Is that even possible or desirable?
And the texts don't give easy answers, do they? They introduce this really interesting metaphor.
They do, this idea of a love machine, or maybe a love formula.
Okay, what does that mean exactly?
Well, the analysis suggests it's about society's tendency to have this kind of template, a blueprint for acceptable love.
Like man meets woman, a happy family, no mental health issues allowed, that sort of thing.
Precisely, like love is something manufactured, stamped out according to specifications, rather than something organic and, well, human.
Right, almost industrial.
Yeah, and if that's the formula, the sources ask, what happens to the bits that don't fit the machine? The parts that deviate?
The leftover parts.
Can those leftover parts, people, relationships, ways of being, ever be put together into something that still counts as love? Or are they just discarded by the formula?
That's a powerful way to frame it. Let's make this concrete. The sources point to a really potent example from Yesoyeon's novel, the narrator's aunt.
Yes, her story is central to this. The sources detail her life, how she spent her youth raising her younger brother.
Okay.
Which meant she missed her own chance, really, for marriage at the typical age.
A huge sacrifice.
Enormous. And then her later arranged marriage to a man who already had a child, it ended very badly. Quickly. There was violence, and she had to flee.
Wow. So a life marked by sacrifice and then trauma?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And after escaping, she ends up living with her brother's family, the brother she raised.
Right.
And here's the thing. Despite everything she'd been through, her own struggles, she apparently just poured infinite love onto the narrator, her niece. That phrase, infinite love, it really stands out.
Infinite love, but then comes the twist, the irony, the sources highlight.
Exactly. The aunt was taking psychiatric medication. And the family, including that same brother.
The one she raised.
Yes. They focused on that. They labeled her with this mental illness, saw it as her defining flaw. The analysis even mentions them saying that awful phrase, mental illness is genetic.
Ugh, that's brutal. Talk about judgment overshadowing everything else.
It creates this incredibly tense household. You've got the aunt's immense love for the niece, right alongside deep, bitter hatreds, the aunt hating the narrator's mother, the mother resenting the aunt.
So the narrator is caught in the middle of this terrible love, as she calls it.
Precisely. She grows up shaped by it, loved intensely, but also aware of these dark undercurrents, never quite sure what this love is.
And the father figure in this, he saw the situation.
Oh, he saw it. The sources say he realized long ago it was basically unresolvable, that nothing would change until someone, died. Mary. And yet he was also the one capable of saying that thing about mental illness being genetic. Maybe as a way to cope.
Yeah.
To distance himself, live his life somehow, as the text puts it.
It really forces you, the listener, to think, how do these perceived flaws, especially inside a family, just warp everything? How does it change love? And what's it like inheriting that kind of tangled emotional legacy?
That's heavy stuff.
But the novel explores other paths too, right? It doesn't just stay with that one family dynamic. There's the story, let's do pull-ups.
Yes, a very different kind of bond presented there.
Yeah?
It introduces Meiji and Seokju, two women.
Okay.
They're described as looking so alike they could confuse their gym owner. There's a fun detail.
Yeah.
But their views on relationships are opposite.
How so?
Meiji says she can't live without a man. But Seokju, she says she's living well without a man. So right away you have this contrast.
Interesting setup. And there's imagery involving pull-ups.
Yes, quite vivid imagery. Seokju is struggling on the pull-up bar, but she wants to use both hands for Meiji.
So it's not just about physical strength.
Not at all. The sources interpret it as a metaphor for their interdependence, how they're relying on each other, hanging on to each other, literally and figuratively.
A mutual reliance that doesn't fit the standard romantic mold.
Exactly. And then they decide to live together, a choice that, as the sources note, the world's formula might definitely see as flawed.
Because it's not the prescribed man-woman setup.
Right. But what do? They start confidence training together. They're building their own kind of life, their own support system.
It really pushes that question. Can love, real connection, happen completely outside those conventional boxes?
Can it thrive, even if it defies that love machine? The story suggests, yes, it can.
It makes you ask, what does it really mean for love to just find its own way, ignore the formula? These stories keep coming back to that, don't they?
They really do. And you see another angle on this in Farm and the Dog and Revolution. Here, the analysis connects Yesoyeon's work to another novel, Jung Jae's Father's Liberation Diary.
Okay, what's the connection there?
It looks at characters, parents specifically, who were former activists. They lived for their big ideals, their ideology.
Right, committed lives.
Very. But now, they've kind of retreated, maybe taken up farming, or in some cases, they've passed away. They lived stubbornly, holding on to those convictions, even as the world changed around them.
So how does this relate back to love and flaws? Is their retreat seen as a flaw?
Well, some might see it as a compromise, maybe a failure of their original ideals, but the analysis argues something different. It suggests these choices like retreating to a farm were actually choices for love.
Love for what, though? For their ideals, for family.
Perhaps love for a certain way of life, for integrity, maybe even love for themselves in a way. It broadens the definition. Think about the father, Tae-soo.
Yeah, tell me about him.
Former activist, now a struggling farmer. But he insists on natural farming methods, against the odds. And he arranges his own funeral exactly how he wants it. Stubborn, you might say.
So sticking to his principles, even in perceived retreat.
Exactly. And the sources make this point. Even though they seem to step back, they didn't lose. It wasn't defeat. It was a choice reflecting their values.
I see.
And the key takeaway here is that these characters continue to love despite holding on to such flaws.
Flaws in their own eyes, or flaws as defined by society's expectations.
Both, potentially. Their unconventional lives, their unwavering, perhaps stubborn convictions, these could be seen as flaws by others or even cause internal conflict. But the love, the commitment, persisted alongside them, not in spite of them.
Which leads to a pretty profound thought, doesn't it? If love is so deeply human, does it just naturally come with a degree of, I don't know, immaturity or imperfection, something that maybe even causes pain sometimes?
That's exactly what the sources seem to hint at. That maybe flaws aren't something external to love that needs fixing, but maybe. Maybe they're woven right into its fabric, an intrinsic part.
Okay, so wrapping this up, it feels like the main thread through Yesoyeon's love and flaws, and thinking about Cha Doha's companions too, is that love is just not simple. It's not that neat formula.
Not at all. It's messy, it's complex, it's often contradictory. That's the big takeaway from the sources. Love seems to work with imperfections, maybe even because of them, rather than trying to erase them.
It's more about navigating the mess, the ironies of life.
Exactly, and finding your own way, even if it looks flawed according to those rigid societal blueprints we talked about. It suggests real love is about connecting with imperfect humans, which
Right.
includes ourselves, right?
Absolutely. So here's a final thought to leave you with. If these stories are right, if love really is about embracing imperfection, what flaws are you maybe still afraid to accept? In yourself or in the people you care about? And how might actually leaning into that acceptance, that messiness, unlock a deeper, maybe more authentic understanding of love in your own life? Something to think about.